Is America going to survive what's coming? Because a lot of things are happening and we really should be able to see the writing on the wall and be able to tell ourselves right now that we need to prepare for the collapse. Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and today we're going to talk about whether or not America can survive what's been happening this whole time, and that we need to actually prepare for the possibility of a collapse here in the future. Things are not looking good, and things have been very difficult over the past year. And America as a country is no longer what it used to be. And there's a lot of different problems going on all over the country that are going to culminate into one big pile of collapse. And that's a problem that we have to prepare for now, because if this thing falls apart, it's going to fall apart in a very bad way. So if you're preparing the best you can for this future collapse, and you know it's probably going to happen at some point in our lifetime, then hit the subscribe button below, because we're going to keep talking about all these different things that are happening. So what are some of the indicators to show us that we're on our way towards a collapse? And we all know what would happen during a collapse. We know when societal collapse occurs that people lose their minds. Panic ensues, and that's when things get very dangerous. And you have to be ready to prepare your family and everyone around you to defend themselves and be ready for whatever might come their way. It will be a violent situation. It's not something any of us should hope for. But with everything that's happening, we can see what is kind of going on in the world and know that we're heading in a bad direction, and we need to be ready for that to happen, okay? Federal unemployment benefits are ending, and they've ended in a lot of states already, and that is generally looked at as a good thing. We don't want people to live off the government money, we don't want socialism, and we want people to get back to work and start earning their way. Unfortunately, those benefits are also what keeps some people afloat when they're just not able to get ahead in life or deal with the situations that have been dealt to them during this past year. And now those people are starting to get more and more desperate, and they're getting further and further behind on things like bills, rent, and everything else related to not having an income. And that could eventually lead to a very problematic situation, because when people are desperate, they tend to react and they act out in a way that is definitely not going to be something we want to have on our doorstep. So that's one thing to keep in mind that's happening right now that we have to be aware of. Then the federal unemployment benefits will end in early September, but states are already taking them away. So I would say by early September, we should at least see if things are really going to start accelerating, because at that point, people are losing their ability to survive, their ability to pay their bills, their ability to operate as a human within this society, okay? That's just something that's happening, okay? Another thing that's really important that we need to pay attention to is the labor shortage. The labor shortage is huge. First off, you can say, well, it's the federal benefits that are causing it, but that's not the only reason behind it. A lot of it's that the entire economy has shifted towards a different realm, and people are no longer going back to work to make money that wasn't really helping them get ahead, when they're finding out living off of benefits of any kind, regardless of whether or not they're the unemployment benefits for the past year or so, is better than wasting their lives away at a job that doesn't pay them enough anyway. And that's what's happening, at least in the mindset of a lot of people. The other thing you have to consider is that these labor shortages are also due to the fact that we're losing our labor force. Our birth rate is going down. And as a country, when your birth rate is going down and you're not keeping up with the demand of laborers, and you're not able to provide the amount of people that the economy needs to continually grow, you eventually will shrink. And that's the direction we're heading, because people are not having children the same way that they used to. And there's a lot of reasons behind it, of course, but one thing that's for sure is that countries that continually populate are going to eventually be the more powerful country. And that's why even places like China are starting to allow their people to have more children than they've been allowed to have in the past. This is an issue because it's a big indicator of a society heading towards a collapse at some point. When the people stop creating more civilians, civilization no longer exists, okay? So, moving on from there. The supply chain shortages that we're all experiencing, which I'm experiencing, and I know you are too, because every time I go to buy just about anything that's particular or specific or very niche, it's hard to get a hold of, or I can't find it. And that is just how things work right now. And there are still things that are rearing from the previous year that we can't just easily go out and acquire, especially when it comes to cleaning supplies or chemicals. But the supply chain is going to continually hurt when the labor shortage impacts it as well. When you don't have the laborers that you need to actually create the products that the supply chain desires in order to put them on the shelf, then we have more and more supply chain issues. If you don't have the guy to load the docks, if you don't have the guy to drive the truck, if you don't have the guy that flies the plane, then nothing gets done and nothing gets sent anywhere, and logistics stops. And that's going to continually happen when these labor shortages increase, which I actually expect them to at some point. Yes, we're seeing that the jobless claims are going down, but we know those numbers are always skewed because they affect the stock market directly, and they love to leave out the fact that some people just stopped applying or stopped even submitting for unemployment. And that is a huge part of what's happening right now in the country. As you can see with the homeless crises going on throughout the entire major US city area, okay? So, the eviction moratoriums end July 31st. Those are the CDC ones, right? Well, a lot of places are already trying to figure out what they're going to do, because come July 31st, if everyone really does just start getting evicted and everybody who stopped paying their rent a year ago is somehow supposed to magically come up with that money now, things are going to fall apart very quickly, because this homeless crisis is going to continue, and these eviction moratoriums are going to be a big problem that we basically pushed off into the future that's going to culminate into something much worse. Basically, once all these people get kicked out of their homes, where do you think they're going to go? They're not going to be able to just get another apartment. They're not going to be able to just find another place to live. Things are going to get very bad. And like I said at the beginning of the video, desperation keeps spiraling. And then the more desperate these people get, the worse things will become. And so first you have the people who are losing their income. Now you have people losing their homes. And now you have the crime wave going on throughout the country right now. It's just going to exponentially grow because of these factors, okay? Homicides are up 33% in all US major cities right now. Things are definitely getting a little bit crazy out there. And I know if you watch channels like The Angry Prepper and you see what's happening in New York City, and there's always a protest and always a possibility of a riot and always some kind of street level violence happening at some point in time, you know that that's an indicator of what's happening around the rest of the country. And we see cities like Chicago and Portland and all these other US major cities that look to be falling apart. They look like there's something out of a dystopian movie. It looks like Demolition Man is on its way and we're going to eat Taco Bell for the rest of our lives. But that being said, keep in mind that crime is a huge indicator of the status of where a society is. And this collapse that we can all see coming down the road is going to just keep becoming more and more of a reality with this crime wave, okay? 63 out of the 66 largest police jurisdictions in the country have reported a rise in some form of violent crime. And violent crimes include robbery, aggravated assault, murder, and rape. And basically every major city, besides I guess 3, are reporting that a rise in some of those crimes has occurred over the last year. And that's something that we should be concerned with, because crime is an indicator of desperation, which is an indicator of collapse. So here we are, okay? Now, police are also leaving. They're saying, goodbye, we're done with this. There's been a lot of anti-police sentiment mixed with a rise in crime, mixed with the desperation of the people, and the police can no longer handle it because it's getting out of control. Can't really even blame some of these police officers saying it's time to go. So retirements have increased by 45% and resignations have increased by 20%. And thanks to the labor shortage, they're not actually rehiring more police. So another indicator of things falling apart. All these things are starting to add up, and if you haven't figured it out yet, we're not going in the right direction. In fact, it's getting much worse. But the media is definitely not on your side, and they're making things look as best as they can in most cases because things. So, don't want to say too much there. Anyway, inflation is the next indicator and has barely touched the surface of what's happening right now. We've experienced inflation. We're seeing it happening everywhere. Gas is up, food costs more, everything we want to buy is becoming more scarce, which raises the price because of demand. We see it happening, but it's going to get worse. General Mills just came out and said they expect to see inflation on their goods, which is a huge brand for food, up 7% by the end of the year. 7%'s a lot. 7%'s an additional sales tax on every General Mills product that you buy, and that might be cereal, that might be tons of different things. And if you think about what it is they produce, it's a lot. And if they're saying that they're going to go up in price, everyone else is most likely going to do the same. So we know that this whole inflation situation we're dealing with right now is going to get worse and worse and worse, which will cause More problems for the people who can't afford to buy the food products that they need, who are getting the unemployment benefits in the beginning of this video. And those same people that don't have anywhere to live now might not be able to afford to eat either. And now this whole thing's starting to really come together now, isn't it, okay? And don't forget, foreign actors are out there doing things that are not good in the sense of maintaining the peace. And when we talk about that, what I mean is state-backed or state-sponsored cyber attacks, and the fact that we're seeing wartime-style drills being conducted right off our coastline all the time from different nations that are superpowers in the world that are an actual threat to our national security. And that's happening all the time. Not to mention that you see all these additional strange crimes coming out of the woodwork with individual entities within the country that are acting as if they are not part of the country, and also all the additional crime and everything else that's going through the roof, and the lack of enforcement of certain crimes, such as shoplifting in certain areas of California. Things are really starting to get dystopic very quickly. I wanted to make this video because we need to make sure we're preparing. But what are we preparing for? There's so many different things that could occur that we have to be concerned about, and we're never really sure where to go with it. But with what's happening, I think it's very safe to say that a collapse of some kind is on its way. And if things don't drastically change soon, it might happen faster than we anticipated. So we need to be better and better prepared, and we need to move more and more forward in self-reliance. This is what we have to do. Sorry about the mess. I'm working on some inventory, and I'm trying to figure out if there's things that I can get rid of or I don't need anymore. And that's something I suggest you do as well. And hopefully, every time we talk about what's going on in the world, and every time we talk about the writing that's on the wall, it gives you ideas about what to do next, or what you should be working on. And one of the things that I think that always helps, no matter what the situation, is getting more organized and cutting dead weight. And that's what I'm doing here, is getting rid of things that I don't necessarily need, organizing the things that I do, and then trying to figure out a way to turn some of this into the next project. So that's something that I would look into if that's something you haven't done in a long time, because as preppers, we tend to get a lot of stuff, and sometimes that stuff isn't actually needed at some point in time. And then we realize maybe we could be better off with a different item or training or who knows what else. So I wanted to bring this to your attention. Please leave it in the comments below if you have the same concept of what's happening right now. This collapse we're preparing for just seems to be telling us every single day that it's more and more on its way. And it's something that concerns me. And if I'm concerned about it, I share it with you to try to let you know where I'm at in my thought process. And hopefully that helps keep you on track and helps us all communicate better about where the world's heading. So, wanted to bring this to your attention. If you have anything else for me at all, leave them in the comments below. Make sure if you ever need anything from me, just go to magicprepper.com. I got a contact form, and if I don't get back to you right away, I apologize, but I do get a ton of emails. So, if you need anything though, let me know and I'll do my best. But without anything else to say about whether or not America will survive what's coming, I think we know the answer to that, and why we need to prepare for a collapse. That's going to be it for Magic Prepper.